Good morning, everyone. I'm Quinn Whiston from Vertical Measures, and I'm here hosting VM's monthly webinar series. Today's webinar is titled The Clicks That Got Away, Use Remarketing to Capture Conversions, and will be presented by our very own digital advertising analyst, Natalie Beretta. Natalie works closely with both lead generation and e-commerce clients here at Vertical Measures to create and implement strategies, facilitate account optimization, and identify expansion opportunities. She is Google AdWords certified and Bing accredited, and is just an overall expert on PPC. Before we get started and I hand over the presentation, though, I have a few housekeeping items to note. Today's webinar will be available for viewing tomorrow, and we'll send out an email to everyone with a link to both the recording as well as the presentation slides on SlideShare, so you can review it there. We'll also be happy to answer any of your questions. So if you take a peek at your webinar interface, you'll see a little question applet where you can send anything you'd like me to ask Natalie after her presentation is over. Alternatively, you can also ask questions via Twitter using the hashtag VMWebinar. Any questions we don't get to, we'll be sure to try and answer via email after the presentation. And if you're having any technical difficulties, please just attempt to sign out and reconnect, and that usually fixes the problem. So with my notes complete, I will hand it off to our presenter, Natalie Beretta.
Thank you, Quinn. Just kind of wanted to, give you guys a little bit of insight onto a way that we here at Vertical Measures really attack clicks that don't turn into conversions. There's one thing that's to be said about going and trying to get as much traffic as possible, but there's something else about going and trying to turn those clicks that you've already received into conversions for your organization. So just to kind of go over the agenda of what I'm going to be talking about today, I wanted to answer a couple of questions that I think would be beneficial for you to ask yourself, and that I could provide answers for to help you really adjust your remarketing strategy and kind of implement it into your PPC account. So first of all, we'll be going over why you should add a remarketing campaign, what the benefits are to your organization to add this campaign type to your strategy. At that point, we'll move into how you can actually integrate and implement remarketing into your PPC strategy. Then probably the most important part of it is how you can target your remarketing efforts. Targeting is always the top of my list for most important thing regarding any of your PPC campaigns. So we'll be going over how you can, different ways you can target those remarketing efforts. And then we'll also cover how else you can use remarketing to drive conversions outside of the general creating a remarketing campaign. So just to kind of start off, kind of giving a basic definition of what remarketing is remarketing is a feature that allows you to reach people who've previously visited your site and show them relevant ads while they're browsing the web on the Google Display Network. So kind of how the image shows below, people visit your site, so those are clicks that you've received through into your site, and these clicks are then added to your remarketing list, and then you're able to create tailored ads that are specific to them and specific to what their needs are and show them to them while they're browsing on the web. So just to kind of start off as to why you should add a remarketing campaign. Remarketing is typically the most common campaign we add for every single one of our clients because it allows us to really capture those clicks that we didn't capture initially. So kind of giving a little bit of numbers behind it, 90 to 98% of the clicks that go to your site don't actually convert into leads or sales. So that's 90% of people who visited your site, seen your product, seen your brand, and didn't convert to be profitable for your organization. And then also conversion rates are typically always higher for remarketing campaigns. This, being said along with the fact that these people who are seeing these ads are already familiar with your organization. Then again, targeting is always most important. It's always in the forefront of anything that we're doing. And realistically, how much more targeted can you get than users that already know who you are? There's one thing to be said about users who are just using your keywords to go and search for a product that you may provide, but if you're targeting these users who already know who you are, you're already familiar. They already have a sense of trust with your organization, and remarketing really allows you to take advantage of that trust and kind of capitalize on that opportunity. And then lastly, branding. As I just said, you're putting yourself in a position where searchers are familiar with you, and searchers already know who you are. So, they already know what your logo looks like and what your organization is about. So when you're serving them ads later on while they're searching the web, they're going to recognize you, and they already have that sense of trust with you. So it's it allows us to really capitalize on that. So, we talk about the benefits of why you should add remarketing to your PPC strategy, but really, it really comes down to how can I do that? How can I integrate that into my PPC strategy? How can I implement that? So a couple things to kind of keep in mind is remarketing campaigns show ads on the Google Display Network, and these are ads. These aren't only necessarily image ads, but they also are text ads that they show on the Google Display Network. When you're creating your ads, remember that the audience will already be familiar with your brand, so that gives you an opportunity to adjust your messaging accordingly. It gives you an opportunity to speak to users who already know who you are, so you're able to provide them with a little bit more of a targeted approach when you're messaging to them. And going along with the targeting is, when building your campaign, the most important thing that you want to think of is, who do I want to target? Who am I trying to recapture? Which I will dive into millions of different ways that you can target users using remarketing, but it's always something very important to kind of keep in the forefront of your mind. So I'll just kind of go through, I guess, the logistics of how to create a remarketing campaign and how you can actually implement that into your AdWords account. So the first thing that you need to do is install a remarketing tag. So this is similar to essentially conversion tracking that you would do either through Google or through Tag Manager or anything of that sort. But essentially what it is, it's a code that is provided to you through by Google, and this code needs to be installed to every single page of your site, which at that point will allow searchers, whenever they get to your site, it will put a cookie on their computer so that you're able to remarket to them later when they're browsing on the web. So whenever you're doing this, you will navigate to your shared library, go to the audiences option, and then you go to set up remarketing. The set up dynamic remarketing we will cover in just a little while. Then after it's created the code for you and you've been able to install it onto your site, the next step will be creating the appropriate remarketing list for the type of campaign you want to run. This kind of goes into targeting as well, which I will be covering shortly, but you need to essentially create those lists to really determine how you're going to target users later on. And then you finally go and actually create the actual campaign for remarketing. So you create the campaign similarly to how you would any other campaign within the AdWords interface. You go to the Add Campaign button, and when you're selecting your campaign type, you will target the display network only, and then you will select remarketing. And as you can see here in my image, the campaign name is incredibly specific. That is something that we are very passionate about and adamant about here, is that we like to ensure that you know exactly what is inside of your campaign so it's easy to navigate and at that point easy to optimize later on. So I've talked a lot about targeting, but I really want to dive into it a little bit further here. So with remarketing, the combinations that you can target are absolutely endless. There's so many different ways that you can target people using your remarketing campaign or your different remarketing lists. So really, you know, this is an opportunity to really get creative and really try to think, you know, who are the people that are valuable to me and who are the searchers that are valuable to me and how can I put myself in the best position to capture those. So the most common, most basic way to target users is to target the ones who have visited your site but did not convert. So you know that one's pretty straightforward. It allows you to serve ads to people who have been to your site but didn't actually complete a sale or didn't submit their email address or anything of that sort. And at that point, you're able to create ads that are targeted to them and speak to them and may, you know, provide a little bit more information as to why they should provide that information for you or why they should go and buy your product, or really gives you an opportunity to kind of put yourself in front of them again. Outside of the kind of normal targeting option there's a lot of different combinations that you could do as well. So kind of some of the different ones is you could target users who did not convert and added a product to the shopping cart. So those would essentially be the people who've abandoned their cart, cart abandoners. Also, you could target users who maybe did convert, but they only purchased like the main product and no additional accessories to go along with it. There's outside of those two options, there's so many different ways you could target users. A couple other examples are you could target visitors who did not convert, but they visited the blog, so they're obviously interested in what you have to say and the information that you have to provide. So at that point, you can serve ads that provide that type of information and give them a reason to go to your website and convert. Another way to target users who did convert, which I really like this targeting method, is you could target users who did convert, but they only completed the free trial, but not yet the paid subscription. So, it's essentially a conversion on your end, but they, didn't actually go for the premium subscription or the paid subscription or something along those lines. So at that point, you could target those users who've already had an experience with your software or anything of that sort and kind of bring those people back in. So to set up the remarketing combinations, whatever the combination may be right for your organization, you first need to create a remarketing list for each different action. So as I mentioned before, you will have a client who, you will have a searcher who did not convert, but visited your site but did not convert. So you need to have somebody, a rule for people who visited, and then one for people who did not convert, and then you can combine the two. So in this example, we'll kind of walk through how you can set those combinations up. So you'll go back to the Audiences page in the shared library and select Add Remarketing List. This is the same place that you've created your remarketing tag. And then you'll go ahead and create your first list. So in this example, this first remarketing list is for the completed sales, so people who actually went in and completed just a basic sale. So we name our list something that is easy to reference later on, and then we create conditions that essentially once a searcher lands on the order complete page, then they've completed a sale, and that tags them as a completed sale and puts that in that remarketing list. Then, so you've created that first list, and then you'll be able to go ahead and create your second list. So same idea, but for example, this one is for people who completed a accessory purchase. So same idea. This will be, remarketing list, accessories purchase, and then a URL that matches add-on order complete. So once they've completed a purchase of an accessory, that additional, they've landed on that site, and then they've been added to that remarketing list. Once you've created both of those lists, then you're able to actually create the combination of the two. So this is a remarketing list for purchase without accessories. So this combination includes targeting anybody who's converted, but it's supposed to say not. People who who did not purchase an accessory, who did not land on the accessories purchase page. So this allows you to kind of create different targeting lists and different ways to target your users and different combinations that you want to do. And you could use this for, as I said, people who visited your blog, people who, visited your site more than 5 times, different ways you can target users, really just kind of what's important for your organization. So there's a couple different ways you can use remarketing outside of just creating a remarketing campaign and creating basic ads for them. There's different ways you can capitalize on those remarketing lists that you've created to kind of help drive in more conversions for your organization. One of the most common outside of the box ways, I guess, would be adding remarketing list for search ads. And then this one, the next one is re-engagement ads, which is actually a fun name that we've come up with here that is a play on the Google engagement ads, but including remarketing on that, which I'll cover in a little bit more detail shortly. And then dynamic remarketing, which is, if you're an e-commerce organization, this is absolutely mind-blowing for your organization. It will go a little bit more deep into it, but that's a really good thing to take advantage of if you can. So remarketing lists for search ads, RLSA, they allow you to optimize your search campaigns, specifically targeting some of the highest value prospects, which are the people who have visited your site in the past, when they're searching for what you sell. So kind of how this image here at the bottom goes through is you're able to segment out past site visitors by using your remarketing list to group them into different types of groups and what pages they've landed on and all of that. And then at that point, just like any other search ad, you're able to optimize the ad text, you're able to optimize bids, you're able to optimize keywords, but those are targeted directly to your remarketing lists. And then you're able to convert those site visitors as they're searching for your products or brand on Google. This is really helpful when searchers are doing research about a product or something that you sell, that they visited your site and they looked around, but then they didn't actually convert at the time and they just went back. And this allows you to kind of reach back out to those people with very specific messaging and very specific bids and keywords and the search queries that you want to show for. It really gives you an opportunity to target those as aggressively and as granularly as you possibly can. So I kind of wanted to give a little bit of an example of a really great win we had with using remarketing lists for search ads. So I'll just kind of lay out the scenario a little bit. And there's a client, say XYZ, had one campaign that really housed a set of core keywords that brought in the vast majority of sales to the account. So this one campaign was really the driving force behind this account. There's a set of maybe 10, 15 keywords that really drives all the good, cost-effective conversions to their site. And then, but the client, they're having such great successes with, these campaigns that are already driving in more sales, but they still want to increase sales volume, typically year over year, whatever their organization's goals may be, while staying aligned with their cost per sale goal, which in this case is $100. So we kind of look at their campaigns and think, they're already dominating those core keywords at high positions, and our impression share is really high. What else can we do? And this really kind of gave us an opportunity to kind of think a little bit outside the box and think, how can we, if we're already in high positions for those keywords and we're already having a really good impression share, what else can we do? And well, there's those people who clicked through and never converted. Well then, we can target those. So the solution that we came up with is we cloned this existing core campaign with the core keywords, everything the exact same, except for one difference. And we added our remarketing list. We targeted contextually with keywords. We're targeting, the exact, even like bids are the same, ads are the same, everything, except we're targeting to use specifically to users who went to the site and did not convert. And and then they're doing research later on in search. And to kind of give you a little bit of how it played out on the numbers side of things is, as I said before, the client's goal was to have sales at $100 and to increase sales year over year. In a 3-month span, we were able to capture 61 additional sales at an average cost per sale of $51. So that's 50% less than what their cost per sale goals are, and higher volume than they were capturing before. So this really put us in a good position to not only capture those initial clicks with our typical search campaigns, but then to bring those people back when they're going back and doing research and all of that. Particularly, this client's product is a little bit on the pricier end, so it would be something that somebody would go back and maybe step back and kind of do a little bit more research on. And we didn't want to just have them go to the site and then leave and then we don't reach out to them again. No, we wanted to be able to put ourselves in front of them and really capitalize on them already knowing about about the client's organization. So the re-engagement ads. This is a newer ad type that Google came out with, I'd say maybe a couple of months ago, and pretty much just kind of a little bit of background behind the product, or behind the ad type, is there's 2 different types of ways you can do it. But the way we've used it for remarketing is we've used the hover to play option, which pretty much what it is there's a teaser image, which in this image is the image that's behind the little 2. There's a teaser image that pops up right where any other display ad would show. And then once a user hovers over that for 2 seconds, then a video starts to play. So this is typically something that's used just generally in the display network, and we decided to kind of try it out to use it to target people who have already been to the site. And one thing that's really beneficial to this is it gives advertisers an opportunity to really take that time in that video to really show the benefits as to why they should go back to their site and convert. You're going to get a lot more information in a 15, 30-second video than you would a little image square. So it really gives them opportunity to really show their benefits and why somebody should go back to them. One thing that we really like about these engagement ads as well is it's priced at a cost per engagement pricing model. So whenever an engagement is considered when somebody hovers over and the video starts to play, so you're not going to receive, well, you're significantly less likely to receive any type of accidental clicks. And then if somebody is hovering over that video or that teaser image to initiate that video, they already know this is that site that I went to a little while ago, and I want to hover over it. Oh, look, something's going to play. They already know it's kind of happening, and it tends to be a little bit more cost effective than just your typical image remarketing ads. And as I said before, it gives the advertisers an opportunity to speak directly to the audience with a small image and then turns into a video ad. So you're kind of giving them double the messaging in this tiny little square. So dynamic remarketing. I mentioned this before, that if you are an e-commerce client, this is going to be incredibly, this is something I would highly recommend implementing into your strategy. And pretty much how it works is, if you are already a retailer through the Google Merchant Center, you can create ads similarly to how you would create regular display ads, but instead of having one set image that shows, your ads will pull in variables to show the different products depending on what products the searcher was looking at. So at this point, you're able to provide them incredibly targeted ads, and click-through rates from what we've seen for these type of ads are typically through the roof, because you're pretty much showing somebody something that you already know that they want to see. And that's using your remarketing list. You're able to target those depending on what works for your organization. But for e-commerce clients, we've seen dynamic remarketing just really shoot through the roof for them. And that kind of brings me to a conclusion of what I'm going through here. I'd like to open it up to questions.
Yeah, we've got a few questions already, and if anyone would like to submit any other questions, go ahead and type that out for us or tweet us with the hashtag #ENWebinar. So the first question we have is, for the solution that you offered in this specific example, what was the difference about the RLSA campaign? Did they just bid higher, have a different text ad, have a different landing page? What exactly was different?
So the one thing that's really interesting about that is there literally wasn't any difference. It was the exact same keywords. We initiated it with the exact same ad text, exact same bids. The only thing that we did different is we also added remarketing list targeting. So pretty much what it was is showing the exact same ads that people would see before, but we're specifically only showing those to people who have gone to the site but did not convert. So, later on we've implemented different ad tests, and we've really the only difference that we've made, the only big change that we've made in that specific campaign was initiating, creating different messaging that may be a little bit more specific to somebody who didn't convert on the site. But outside of that, bids were the same, keywords were the same, just added one additional form of targeting.
Great. And then we have more of a general question from Amy. She asked, what is the cost for a remarketing campaign?
Well, costs are, really just kind of depends on, obviously first what your budget is for your organization. But click costs are typically not very expensive. They're pretty aligned with display ad cost, which typically tend to be a little bit less expensive than search ads. Again, it all depends on your organization and what the industry that you're in is, and kind of the competitiveness of where your ads would be showing compared to other organizations' ads. But typically costs are pretty low. I'd say maybe a very vague rule of thumb, I don't know, maybe like 10% of a client's budget goes towards remarketing. Since it is really highly targeted, there's a lot less wasted ad spend in remarketing. So one thing that's really nice about it is you're really able to spend your money incredibly efficiently.
Great. And we have a question. I know you mentioned a few different e-commerce examples, and we have a question from Kevin when he asked, can you use remarketing for sites that are not e-commerce? If so, how? And do you have any kind of examples you can share?
Yeah, absolutely. So we use remarketing for clients who are not e-commerce clients very often. Pretty much how it works is to kind of give you the A to Z, I guess. It would be you would create a remarketing list. Say you wanted to create a remarketing list for people who did not convert. So say your goal is to drive email submissions, or to drive sign-ups to your newsletter, or to drive 5 clicks or 5 page views. You set that remarketing list exactly to what what you're targeting. So say you're doing an email submission. You'll create a remarketing list that is to all visitors, and then you'll create a remarketing list that is to visitors who submitted their email address, which typically will take you to a thank you page. So you'll just target that remarketing list as a thank you page. And then you're able to create a custom combination of all people who visited but did not visit the thank you page. And at that point, you're able to create a remarketing campaign targeting those users who didn't put in their emails, didn't submit their email, or didn't sign up for your newsletter.
And I have a question kind of more about a common objection that might come up, maybe when you're working with clients or from the clients themselves. Does remarketing become annoying to consumers after a certain amount of time?
So that's actually a very common question, and really the biggest thing about it is you can actually, there's a setting within the remarketing campaign where you can actually cap impressions on how often you show your ads to somebody. That's a really important feature to keep in mind when you're creating your remarketing list, is how often do you want to show your ads to these people. One thing that's really important also is you need to know your market. So whenever you're putting this remarketing tag on your site, there's a cookie that gets placed on people's computers, on searchers' computers. And when you kind of set a length of how long that cookie would be. So it kind of depends also on your industry, on what is an appropriate amount of time to make sure you're targeting these people. So just kind of like an example, somebody who has a travel website would probably have a cookie that lasts maybe 60 to 90 days or something, because, when you're booking travel or something like that, that's something that takes a little bit more time versus just I'm buying a pair of shoes and, it'll maybe take me 15, 30 days to decide what I want to do. So making sure that you're making good use of the impression capping, and then kind of making sure that you're showing ads appropriately for your industry, you should be good, not annoying your your people who are seeing your ads.
And maybe this goes with the question you just answered. I'm not sure. I know you're the expert. But Christine asked if everything is the same as the RLS Pay First campaign you mentioned, what is the difference between the user seeing a remarketing ad and seeing a non-remarketing ad? Assuming that the ad copy is totally the same, what is the benefit to a remarketing campaign in that case of duplication?
So that was actually one of the, as I mentioned, one of the changes that we ended up making once we had kind of built it out is really the biggest opportunity there was changing the ad copy. So, as you mentioned, there isn't a significant difference other than being able to maybe target it a little bit more aggressively at a lower click cost. But yeah, the biggest opportunity we saw there is being able to keep everything the same, but changing ad copy and really adjusting messaging to make sure that we're kind of creating specific messaging for people who already know the site.
And then how about creating the ads themselves? Do you need to hire a graphic designer to do that, or is there some other tool that you can use to create them?
So to create ads, Google actually has this really nice, really easy to use, I think it's called the Display Ad Builder, which allows you to create regular image ads and all different ad sizes. You can do them in HTML5 and Flash. It's really simple to use. It's really drag and drop. And then the same thing, it allows you to create the dynamic remarketing ads, which pretty much has a placeholder for the variables that it'll be pulling in from your Google Merchant Center. And then, you'll be able to create the ad outside of that little variable. And then along with that, for the engagement ad, Google also has this, again, super easy to use, super intuitive tool that allows you to easily be able to throw your video in there. It typically will take like a YouTube link, and you create your little teaser image, and it makes it super easy for you to make there.
And we've got time for one more question, and I think it's the perfect one to end on. Because it's definitely what we all want to know. How do you know if your remarketing efforts have been successful?
Really, along with everything, the most important thing to keep in mind is your organization's KPIs. You want to know what's important to you, what your goals are, what your cost per lead goals are, what your conversion goals are. That's something that you need to always keep in the forefront of your mind when you're making any changes to your PPC strategy. So, really determining, how the cost per acquisition is coming in and, what those costs are looking like. Typically, remarketing has a lower cost as well. One different metric that you typically don't look at that tends to work really well in remarketing is view through conversions, which if you look at view through conversions, it shows you the amount of conversions that saw your ad, but then later on went back to your site. So they viewed through it. And typically on the remarketing campaigns, at least from what we've seen here, is those numbers tend to be really high. So, you'll see, you may not see the conversion come in specifically on the remarketing campaign, but you'll see conversions jump up somewhere else.
Awesome. I think that's all the time we have today, but I know we can probably go on for a while. So thanks, Natalie, for all your expertise. And thanks for everyone for joining us and the Vertical Measures team for the webinar today. Please mark your calendar for our next webinar. It's on August 14th, and we're going to have a special guest presenter, Ethan Hayes of Eero. We recently actually saw him speak at Digital Summit in Denver and liked his presentation so much that we asked him to do something similar for you all. So he'll be talking on the topic, technical SEO in a semantic search world. He's super knowledgeable, definitely an expert in the field, so definitely check that out. We're going to open registration up for that pretty soon, so I'll go ahead and send an email in the follow-up, and you can register there. So again, I'm Quinn, and from all of us at Vertical Measures, thank you for your time, and have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.